My name is Lu Chekowsky, and I'm performing a story about how my mother taught me to get doctors to fall in love with me so I would get better care. To tell this story to an audience is basically a 28-year journey of having this story be part of my shadow experience of being a person, and to tell it out loud in front of an audience. My hope was that it will be incredibly freeing and putting a period at the end of a very long sentence. It's Thanksgiving morning in Central Florida, 1996. There's ice on the palm trees, and a Publix turkey is defrosting in the sink. Last night, my mother, Rose, fell, and she's been spending the last 5 hours begging my father and I not to call an ambulance. I can get up on my own, she keeps repeating, but she can't. My mother's voice is rough. She's unrecognizable. She doesn't sound anything like the bawdy, bodacious mom I love, the one who could have been a Borscht Belt comic if only she'd wanted to. In the fall, my mother soiled her house coat. Her stomach was so sick from all the cancer treatments. So I helped her change out of it in the middle of the night, and I gave her a crisp white sheet to cover herself with. She draped it over the top of her chest where her breasts used to be. And she looks like a statue of a Greek goddess in the atrium of the Met. I'm 22 years old at this point, and this is not at all how I saw my life going. I'm back living at home with my parents. I just got fired from my first job out of college, writing the junk mail that comes stuffed in your bank statements. And now I'm working at Circuit City doing double holiday shifts, selling portable CD players to the very same girls who made fun of me in junior high school. The thing is, I'm not just home because I'm a failure. I'm actually home because my mother is dying. I sit on the floor with my mother all night, and it's filthy. What happened was she got up to use the bathroom, and she lost her footing and screamed. And when I got to her, she was half in the bed and half out of it. And it was up to my father and I to lift her back up to safety. So with him on one side and me on the other, and with her right hand in her right arm in his hands and her left arm in my hands, we counted down together like we were working at ground control at Kennedy Space Center, just a few miles north. On 3, 2, 1, go, we say, and we lift up, and just like that, my mother's arm breaks into 2 clean pieces in my hands. She doesn't let out a sound. The chemo and the radiation had made her almost immune to extreme pain. And in my panic, I dropped her, and she landed on the floor with a thud on our turquoise shag carpet. And that's where she's been ever since. And now the sun is coming up, and no one, not even my bossy mother, can deny the fact that we are all living in a horror movie. And she finally concedes, call an ambulance already. And I do. Almost immediately, like magic, 5 men arrive at our front door, like guests arriving for Thanksgiving dinner, except these men are towering strangers in clunky work boots, all surrounding my mother, standing over her, some with their hands in their pockets, some with their eyes averted. They can't stand the scene. My mother knows how she looks to them, and this is why she didn't want to call them in the first place. One of the paramedics is asking her a series of questions off a prepared list. Ma'am, what's your age? What drugs are you taking? how did this happen exactly? They're professional, but professional is not what my mother wants. I mean, they're talking to her like she's in the garage and she has a check engine light on, like she's a busted sedan and they're mechanics. My mother, she wants to be more than just another patient. For her, it's really important to try to get real care because at over 300 pounds, my mother's used to being written off in pretty much every healthcare setting. Every single one of her ailments gets traced back to her fatness, from hangnails to hives and now cancer. But luckily for my mother, she has a powerful secret weapon she can deploy whenever she starts to feel this bubbling up. And that is my mother's ability to get doctors to fall in love with her. My mother has cracked the healthcare cheat code, and she wants me to have it too, because she knows she's not going to be alive for very long, and she wants to give me as many lessons as possible. Listen, Louisa, these doctors, they're having a bad day, their schedule's backed up, maybe they're having problems at home, we don't know. It's up to you to make it nice for them, tell a joke, compliment them, whatever it takes for them to see you as a person, because then you'll get better care. Here's my advice to you. Become your doctor's favorite. On Thanksgiving morning, 1995, on the floor, the filthy floor, with my mother, while my father is in another room having a panic attack, I know what I have to do. And what I have to do is what my mother would normally do, but she's too sick to do it. I lean over like I'm going to tell her a secret, but I say it loud enough for everyone in the room to hear, all the paramedics. I say, "Hey, Ma, so when was the last time you were naked, alone, in a room full of guys?" The paramedics look at me, look at her, look back at me. They can't believe it. Their eyes are big as saucers. One's covering his mouth, busting out laughing. My mother, she doesn't miss a beat, and she shoots back. Not recently enough, I'll tell you that much. Immediately, the room bursts with laughter, and we are no longer separate. We're not caretakers and patients. No, we are united on the same team, in on the same joke. My mother is unleashed. She goes on, "So, have you met my beautiful, available, accomplished, gorgeous daughter, Louisa?" Pointing to me. "Perhaps you'd like to take her out on a date." This arm is in 2 pieces, for a reminder. The men laugh. They see her, and one of them gets down on the floor and makes eye contact right in her eyes, touches her hand and says, "Rose, we're going to take good care of you." The paramedics surround my mother like they're a group of teenage girls at a sleepover seance, playing light as a feather, stiff as a board, and they levitate her up onto a gurney without breaking a sweat. And she flirts with them. "You're all so strong," she says. And the ambulance pulls away. 3 months later, a week after Valentine's Day, my mother will die. And I will be still 22 years old. And I will inherit a lot from her. Her love of celebrity gossip, her penchant for poetry, and her huge empathic heart. I will also inherit her body and the tools she left me to navigate the healthcare system once I became a fat woman with a chronic illness. In fact, just like my mother, it happens so frequently at the doctor that I'm written off because of my weight, or told that my weight is the issue of every one of my problems. And it happens so much, I'm often left wondering if maybe these doctors are right and I should just come back when I'm finally skinny. But I try not to dwell too much on all of that. And instead, I move into action like my mother taught me. And I work on becoming irresistible. At every doctor's appointment, I go on autopilot. I become a whirling dervish of sweetness and gratitude. I portray a deep interest in everyone there, even though, by definition, I am only at the doctor because of a deep, deep, deep interest in myself. This is not generosity of spirit. This is survival. I need help, and I'm going to do anything to get it. To the front desk staff, I bow. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, here's my credit card. I appreciate it. Thank you. To my doctors, I ask about their childhoods. So did you always dream of becoming a gynecologist? And I always make jokes at my own expense, of course. Oh, you mean a bagel isn't a food group? I didn't know. And it works so much, except sometimes when it doesn't, like once not that long ago in the emergency room when the triage nurse told me that I was acting too cheerful to be having a real emergency, and I was in the waiting room for over 8 hours. Still, I use my mother's tricks a lot because they work. And they have helped me assemble a killer healthcare team. I am now believed. I'm understood. I have the personal cell phone numbers of a few of my doctors to call when I'm really in trouble, and I use them. I have graduated from being an anonymous patient in an anonymous healthcare system to being a real person with real needs that deserve to be really addressed, and I have real relationships with real people who know how to do that. And they help me navigate all the bullshit that comes with having a body, and it is a lot of bullshit. Still, whenever I use my mother's tricks, I'm wrecked with guilt. And I wonder if doing these things makes me a bad person. Like, does getting doctors to want to fall in love with me make me a genius or a fucking shitbag? A few weeks ago, I go to see my physical therapist, Sam. Sam's great. She helps me with my chronic headaches and the pains in my neck and the numbness I feel every day in my hands. And Sam knows a lot about me, and I know a lot about Sam. I know she likes to go axe throwing at this brewery nearby, and I know she makes a killer lentil soup because it always smells like garlic in her office, and it smells amazing. And on this visit, Sam says at the end of it, "Hey, Lou, do you want to know my secret dream?" And of course I say yes, because I want to know literally everybody's secret dream. And then she tells me that she's thinking about buying a building so she can expand her practice and help more people. And when she tells me this, I think, holy shit, all this intimacy and kindness and relating that I want with my doctors, maybe some of them want it with their patients too? Later that night, I get into bed and I do what I do pretty much every night when I fall asleep. I go through the very long list of crimes I've committed over the course of my entire life, real and imagined. We all do this, right? And on this night, I'm particularly haunted by this idea of Sam. I think about what she would say if she knew that our relationship, this one I've really come to rely on that is so important in my life, began with this trick my mom taught me. Like, Would she like me any less? Would she want to help me any less? It's hard to know. But the truth is, this is the origin story of our relationship. Even after all this time, and I like her so much. It's the origin story of not just me and Sam. It's the origin story of so many people who helped me with my pain. And I wish my mom were still here so I could ask her about it. I picture us having lunch at one of our favorite restaurants. Maybe you've heard of it, the Olive Garden. And she'd be wearing one of her brightly colored polyester tunics and stuffing lukewarm breadsticks in her purse for later. And I would just ask her, Ma, you don't think it's bad, this thing I do, with doctors? Getting them to try to like me? And she'd smile at me with her warm brown eyes, and she would reach her hand across the table to me, and she would assure me, "Oh, Louisa, don't overthink this. In this life, we all have to do what we have to do to survive." And then she'd take a sip of her Tab soda and leave a bright red lipstick ring on the plastic of the straw. And she would lower her glasses and look at me and say one of her trademark lines, "Also, who are you kidding? You're already so lovable. You don't even have to try." Thank you very much.